the recording. There it
Oh, there
goes.
we
It
go.
just
Okay.
started. They got my message. Perfect.
Thank you. All right.
Now go.
I'm on record. Better be careful what I say.
You're on
But
record.
all right. So quantum ability, number nine or chapter nine is near and dear to my heart. It's about leadership, and I think everybody on this call today, you are a leader in many areas of your lives. Starting with maybe your own family, your kids, your center circle of influence, your churches, your clubs, and most importantly, if you're a licensed realtor, you are a leader with your clients, past clients, and sphere of influence, and should consider yourself as a leader of all things real estate related. You want to be that person that people go to when they need help with real estate, or they have that simple question about what's going on, and really be somebody that's worthy of being followed. And the opening quote to the chapter was, "If your actions inspire others to dream more, do more, and become more, you are a leader." John Quincy Adams. And so think about your actions. What do your actions represent day in, day out? And are they, by and large, things that you are proud of, things that are worthy of people to look at and be inspired by, and to maybe emulate or follow what you're doing. And I go into every day with that thought in mind. What am I doing today that will help inspire others to succeed and will help them in at least some small way to really move that dial forward in their businesses or even their lives. And I really look at myself as more of a holistic leader, rather than just being in a narrow lane of, okay, real estate here, but everything else don't bother me with. I have no clue. I really want to exemplify somebody that people are aspiring to follow at least certain aspects of what I do and what I demonstrate. I don't, maybe not everything, but so I always think about that in everything I do, whether it's public facing or even behind the scenes. And I take leadership as a privilege, and a responsibility, at the end of the day, not just simply a title. I've self-prescribed title because I am a co-owner in Century 21 Jordan Link, but that's just not enough to have bought your way into a business and then slap a president title on yourself and then expect people to follow you at the end of the day. That's not realistic. And people don't follow titles or positions. I mean, on John Maxwell's 5 levels of leadership, that's just barely the first level, and that's really not worthy of being followed. I know some people, just out of respect, will follow a title, particularly those of you that maybe have a military or service background. I mean, obviously you've had to follow a CO, whether you liked them or not, whether they were worthy or not. But the reality is, in this day and age, particularly with brokerages, when there's one on every street corners, although that's every other street corner is closing down right now, I think. But it's over the last few years, you had a lot of options on what broker to join and follow, and we appreciate you guys having put your trust in us and to lead you to the promised land, so to speak, through this really scary wilderness that we've gone through, at least the last couple of years. And I slap the term quantum leader on it, because a quantum leader is somebody that not only views it as a privilege and responsibility, but basically leads by example. Again, how I show up every day and what I do. I know that there's visibility on it, and I need to make sure that I'm leading by example, and what I'm preaching, I'm practicing. What I'm telling you about, I've done or know about, and really, have that credibility to go out and lead the charge right now. And a quantum leader is a servant leader, Michael and I have talked many times about being servant leaders, and I know that sounds like a platitude or something that somebody just says to seem humble, but it's not, because I mean, if you're truly a servant leader, you're putting the needs of the people that you're leading ahead of your own, and everything you do is designed to help them win and succeed. You know, sometimes even at your own detriment to some extent. It's kind of like, you know, you having that fiduciary duty to your clients out there. A great leader will operate in essence with fiduciary to the people that follow them, and making sure that their needs are met. And that's, I think that's a success for a formula for success with, you know, any business, but particularly a brokerage, where Michael and I, you know, we don't sell anymore. Our income, you know, and livelihood depends on the success of you guys, our agents. And so if we're not leading by example, if we're not leading with a servant mentality, then, you know, we're really failing, and we're going to fail, you know, ourselves at the end. So it's really that important to go about, you know, to go at it with that mentality, and really get the ego in check. And not that the ego doesn't come into play. It does. I mean, every strong leader has a strong ego. You should, right? You should have that confidence, and really have achieve that self actualization, and know that you're worthy, and in the right role, in the right seat. But with that in mind, knowing that hey, you know, we're human, and, you know, we make mistakes like everybody else, and really, you know, remember that humility is important, and it's really a great example to demonstrate to the people that follow. But by virtue of that, you know, you guys can demonstrate to your clients as well, because, you know, people appreciate humility, and they'll tend to bond with that in terms of trust, more than somebody that rolls out preaching constantly how great they are. And it's like when we're scrolling on social media, you always come to the posts of somebody that's constantly over self-promoting. And I do believe in self-promotion, particularly on social media, but in a good way. Promoting your wins and what you've done to help people is important, but bragging about, you know, everything that you've personally done, and how successful you are, I begin to wonder if you really are successful, because leaders that are successful don't need to overly self-promote, and specifically tell, you know, people why I'm successful, and what I've done lately, and all the things I own. And at the end of the day, I think, again, just the actions and what other people say about you, and the comments will show whether you're a true leader or not. So that's my opening. Want to see, Sandra, do you have any questions? Want to take questions of anybody that's curious about the chapter? Want to know how you got into leadership? Give
Sure.
examples of how you've led recently.
Well, learning from you and Michael, because managing is something new for me, not new, but I'm working on 3 years. And I would say, what would strike me in your book is leading the way that people want to be led. So sometimes just keeping that in mind, I think that's just to me really hits home. And really thinking about the way that you want to lead with people, and what they expect from you, and keeping that in mind instead of the eye always on yourself or how you feel. So I take that from that chapter very strongly, I would say. Anybody
Yeah,
else
that's a good observation. I appreciate that. I will make one comment, Sandra. While you may be new to management, I think you've been a very successful leader,
Oh, thank you.
most of your life. So when we met with you and learned about you, and decided to take the plunge of
Mhm.
having you come on board Fresno, which really we got the better end of that.
Oh,
You know, I
thank you.
feel, but we knew that you had been a leader for a long time.
Well, actually, in my younger years, I think people will be surprised. I went to continuation school. I wasn't that good in school. I really didn't want to put an effort in. So one thing great is that you can always kind of change your life around. And I see that in real estate, you can change your real estate career. And that's something I think is phenomenal about real estate. We start January fresh and you have a chance to change. So, and to lead people. So that's kind of
Yeah, and use the metaphor of the writing books. You know, January 1st is the first page of the first chapter of a 365-page book. So if you think about it that way, that's really helpful. And let's write a New York Times bestseller this coming year. I think that's everybody's goal.
yeah.
Or like I like Donald Trump's second book, the title Art of the Comeback. I think that the art of the comeback
Wow.
is going to be applicable to a lot of us, particularly the company. I mean, I think we've already started the comeback right now over the last couple months, and I think we're going to roll into a really, really successful year. And everything we learned through this process over the last couple of years, particularly this year, the first half, has really helped us become better leaders because it's just that pressure on coal makes a diamond analogy, and that's, I feel that it's been that way. And for those of you that have hung and just kept going in spite of, you know, the challenges and the lack of business or the deals that have fallen out, you know, at the end of the day, we're all going to come out better after this storm, and we're all going to be better leaders. And as much as I hate these times, a lot of ways, I do love them, because every time, and if you've read my story in the book, coming out of the Great Recession, I've come out a much stronger leader on the other end by simply just kept going and kept figuring things out and just never stopped and continued to learn during the process. So I think that's been a great opportunity. So good example. Anybody else out there with comments, questions?
Well, I want to throw this out there right now because I think one of the things in the first part of this chapter, and probably for people hearing right now too, if they're thinking, they hear the word leaders, so they're thinking just strictly management. People, you know, in those positions when, you know, reality, and something that you do touch on in this chapter, it's, you know, if you're an agent, doesn't matter if you're a new agent or you're a veteran, you're leading your client. You are a leader in that. And, you know, you talked about servant leadership a bit of, you know, not chasing the checks, doing what's right. And I think that's something that probably a lot of people, you know, they hear leaders and they think, like I said, just high level, when in reality, like, they are one every day that they're working with people.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think so. In the context of real estate, I mean, leadership really, what does it mean? It means that we're ideally positively influencing our clients, influencing the colleagues around us, the community which we live in.
Yeah, we're
And
leading our
really just,
communities for
yeah,
sure.
modeling integrity, courage, accountability, showing all those things that are important, because again, what we do is very influential. The dollars are big, the life change aspect of it's big, and we are considered leaders out there in our communities as long as we're visible and doing it and doing it by example. So yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, Mike, the only thing I want to add to what you're saying, what Adam said and Sandra, is, you know, it's an 80-20 rule in real estate, right? Where the 20% is slowly shrinking, getting more of the business. And in the past, if we were to go back 100 years, where libraries and education wasn't what it is today, back then the people that read were the ones that got ahead. And if you relate that into real estate right now, it's the people that continue to read what's changing, what's coming, continue to educate themselves either through our training or on their own. Those are the ones that become the leaders and bigger, stronger leaders for their own clients. And I would say that today, and I take this from Ryan Holiday's book, is the people who don't read have no advantage over the people who can't read of 100 years ago. And so if you want to continue to lead and get better at what you do, educate yourself. Use Chat GPT if you don't want to do the work. Do some research. Know what's up to date. Know your market. Know what's happening in real estate. Know the new laws that are coming through, and just educate yourself for your client's sake.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's important. I've talked about it before, even in this series, that, you know, I feel that I have to stay on top of the knowledge game and the skill game and the, you know, the technology trends, everything that affects our business. I feel, you know, I need to stay ahead of as much as I can to help disseminate that to you guys and everybody that follows us. And so really be part of being worthy of being followed is just educating and having that knowledge base and staying on top of it and knowing more than our next door neighbor or our brother-in-laws or whoever feels they know more than us about all things real estate. The reality is we deal with fact, not fiction. And, you know, we understand the trends and what's going on, and we know how to communicate it. And we know why now is a great time to buy or sell. And here are the reasons if you have the desire and need to do so. And quit reading all the phony news and, you know, hype out there that's telling you to wait and now's not the right time or the market's going to crash. Or, I mean, we keep hearing all the sensational nonsense and none of it's true. And you know, if, you know, things are just trending better, values continue to go up. So, but just knowing that and being able to articulate that with authority is powerful. And, you know, you could start by reaching the masses, just simply doing that on social media effectively, right? And we're here to help you do that, make it look good on the imaging side. You should be out there leading rather than gossiping or, you know, over self-promoting in a not a negative way, but just leading with knowledge, right? If you're out leading with just little tidbits of knowledge and creating that conversation back and forth on social media where you're inciting questions and you're able to go back and answer them and creating those blog posts, if you will, man, I mean, I don't know, to be able to establish yourself as a leader that effectively is amazing, because rewind 10, 20 years ago, we didn't have that ability. I mean, we had to physically go out and be that visible. Unless you were writing some popular column in the newspaper every week, you know, you had to go out and demonstrate it and actually talk to people, right? Now you can put it out there for the masses on social media and just hit boost and 5,000 people can read your posts. I mean, so again, that's just the power of being able to project your knowledge and be able to help people understand the dynamics of the market and the trends and what's really going on. Anybody else have any input on leadership or example?
Come on, Carmen.
Carmen's one of the biggest leaders on this call today. I mean, she leads over 5,000 realtors.
Sometimes it's difficult though, because sometimes you have to make tough decisions, right? And then take a stand. So that's where I find, but I like what you talk about, being empathetic about others. And, you know, a lot of times when we meet other people, we don't know what place they're coming from in their mindset, you know,
Right.
What is it they're going through? Because, you know, while you're seeing things in one direction, they're, you know, maybe the home life or something else is happening that we're not aware of that impacts the way they're feeling about the industry, the business, and things of that nature. So that's where I find the difficulty is when to, you know, how to lead in different directions with different people, like Sandra was mentioning earlier, because of those things.
Yeah, and obviously leadership is not a popularity game, you know, only at the end of the day. I mean, yeah, you want to be popular to an extent, but I mean, if great leaders, you know, they rattle cages at times. And if you're not, you're probably not, you know, making hard decisions and doing enough in your role, because you sometimes, for the benefit of others, you have to make a tough decision that ultimately will benefit everybody. But generally people overall will respect when you make those tough decisions and they'll support it. But if you go out with the mindset, I have to please every last person, oh boy, that's such a moving target. You will never hit it. You just never
Especially in
will.
real estate, yeah.
Yeah, and then you're just going to be innocuous at the end of the day. You're just going to be a leader that it's shake hands and kiss babies and, you know, how you doing? How's the family? And then nothing else. There's no substance behind it, because I really don't want to do anything that's polarizing in any way. And unfortunately, we make decisions every day that have some polarizing aspect. And, you know, Carmen, running a large, you know, realtor association, you know, I know for me, when I ran I think it was my first presidency of Orange Belt, which was southeastern Tulare County back in the day, you know, I had to raise dues, you know, membership dues and the MLS fees, because, you know, the way the market was trending, this was you know, in 2013-ish, 12 and 13 time frame, you know, we would have probably ran out of money over the next 2 to 3 years if we hadn't made that tough decision. And that could make you public enemy number one, and now your face is on everybody's dartboard, right? But I knew that I had to make the tough decision. We had to do the right thing in order to survive and continue to move forward. But it was also how it was presented, because it wasn't done just in a vacuum and here's your increase, whether you like it or not. You know, we brought the brokers in and explained why we were doing it and showed them the budget, and they appreciated being a part of that process, and nobody fought against it. I didn't have one person say, no, you know, you guys are gouging, or no, this is wrong. After everybody saw the reality of the situation, everybody agreed. And really, we had nobody that was upset, because it was just the way it was communicated.
Mhm.
And you know, that's part of the challenge with leadership, is sometimes decisions are made in a vacuum and it's not communicated effectively. But being a great leader is being a great communicator and being as transparent as possible to the people you lead. So that's a really good point, Carmen. Any other points out there?
Well, if nobody else is, I'll throw it out there because I got a couple different things from there. One of the it's very true, and you talked about being a part-time therapist in these leadership roles that we are, whether again you're in management or you're an agent talking with your clients, because we're people are coming to us with different problems that they have, whether it's with their house, maybe they had a previous agent, or in their personal life of what's going on with them. They trust us with this, just like those clients trust us. You know, I've been in management for 20 something years. And I've always felt like, besides the part-time therapist, I'm essentially like, when people go into a bar, I'm Sam Malone from Cheers half the time. Other people are Diane Chambers. They're coming in here and like, hey, what's going on? They're just gonna, really lay their problems onto you, and it's on us a lot of the time. We have to be those ears. We have to be listening.
Yeah.
And that's where, that EQ really shows up
Yep.
for people. And if it's for the clients, sometimes, we have to, tell them what they don't necessarily want to hear after they've given all this information to us. And that's something
Yep.
of weighing that. It's something that is a skill that has evolved over time for me.
And that's good. I mean, first of all, I was surprised to hear your Cheers reference, because I didn't think you were old enough to watch
Listen,
it.
I've seen every episode
But
multiple times.
yeah, the power of streaming TV, I guess. But I used to watch them live when they first got released, which is scary. But yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think cultivating emotional intelligence, or EQ, is really fundamental in this position, or any position of leadership, because we got to exhibit empathy, and just have a general self-awareness of how we communicate with people, and what our interpersonal skills are, and how we're coming across, and whether we're truly listening to people and what their challenges are, or we're just looking to speak right away and thinking about the next thing we're going to say. And yeah, that we play the role in the leadership, and just like we with maybe agents and employees, and you guys with clients, we play the role of psychologists occasionally, and counselors, and really, I think one of the highest demonstrations of EQ is really truly asking questions, and listening to what those answers are, and getting to the root cause of how they're feeling, and what their concerns are, what their fears, what their motivations are, what ultimately their goals are. And that really instills that confidence and that trust bond right away. So a leader that has low EQ will lose followers like crazy. They just People just won't relate. They won't bond to them. It just to turn off. Even though you can be the best leader and have the highest knowledge, and really just know what you're doing across the board, and if that EQ is low, good luck. I mean, people still won't follow you, because they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care about them and their needs and what their goals are. So really good point.
I think part of your chapter 2 is actively listening to people, which
Yeah.
I think is really difficult because we're so sidetracked and we want to be, we want to be on this listing. We don't want to miss a phone call, but I think actively listening and looking people in the eyes and not texting or not being on your phone, well, that will help your business grow tremendously.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm
And
so
I think it's a problem for all of us.
It is. It is. I think in the day and age of smartphones, and that being sort of an appendage to our bodies or our brains, and always there with us wherever we go and at the dinner table. And I mean, it's tough. There's nothing worse than having a heartfelt conversation with somebody and then they're on their phone, right?
Right.
Man, I'm
That's our
afraid
family,
that
everything.
some agents are taking their phones into listing appointments and looking at it in the middle of the presentation. That sounds crazy, right? But man, don't be surprised if that's the case. And if
Yeah.
that's you, please stop doing it.
Yeah, leave your phone.
Good luck on getting that listing. But yeah, it's important to really just be focused on the other person and just being relatable, right? And that's where that humility comes back in, because I've been just like every one of you have been in front of somebody, and whether it's a past boss, for example, or somebody, like trying to talk to a teacher or principal in school, and it's just like they're not hearing you. They're just looking to say something, and you can tell they're just not listening. They're just daydreaming and they're out of it. They're looking around. They're not looking at you. They're leaning back away from you rather than leaning in towards you. It's body language speaks volumes, and that's when I talk about visibility of leadership. What does your body language exhibit to people? So when you're in front of them, how's your posture? How's your attention? How's your eye contact? How's your overall body language and inflection? And are you leaning in or leaning out? Or do you look
You're
asleep?
making me sit up straight.
Yeah, I mean, just posture is important. And how do you walk into a room? And I've really cultivated this, and I've had people even tell me I've got like the Saturday Night Live strut or Saturday Night Fever strut, John Travolta, they should play that song when I walk in. But so I've kind of cultivated a little bit of how I walk, with authority. Not like I'm too cool for school, I'm not, hopefully I'm not like that. I don't think I walk that, I'm literally not John Travolta, even though we have the same hairline these days. But yeah, he finally got rid of the wigs, thank God. He looks better bald. But at the end of the day, everybody's watching you in your role. Think about that. Even your kids are watching how you walk and move and talk and how you respond to things, and they emulate that. I mean, I watch families. I'm very observant. I mean, I think I'm a sociologist in a lot of ways at heart as well, because I like to watch families just interacting in public and walking somewhere, down a sidewalk and almost without, a doubt. When I watch like how the son walks and his body language, it's almost identical to the father's. It is. I mean, just if the father's slouching, the son's slouching, right? If the father's putting their head down while they walk, the son's putting his head down while he walks. And that, because the father in that case is the son's ultimate leader, right? That's the quintessential leader for the son, and they're going to emulate all things. And so we have to be very cognizant when the people we lead, that we have to put out the positive, vibes, whether we're feeling it or on a given day. So if I'm feeling down on a day and the world's coming to an end and I've had a deal or two fall out, when I walk into that listing appointment, I'm going to walk in with great posture, smiling, and with authority, like I'm on top of the world, whether I feel that way or not, because that's going to set the tone for the meeting and establish right away whether I'm, worthy of being followed, whether I'm worthy of selling their $400,000 home. And if you walk in with shoulders slumped over and looking down and seeming timid, oh my gosh, good luck. Unless you know the people really well already, man, it may be tough. Yeah. All right, those are good points. Anybody else? Don't be shy. All right, you want to transition into the next ability?
Yeah. Yeah, we'll go into 10.
All right, so 10, last but not least, hopefully going out with a bang on this one. It's about transforming success into quantum success. So how do we really, once we start getting some success in our careers and lives, how do we shift gears? Where do we go from there? And it's been so heartbreaking to witness people that have just driven and accomplished amazing things in their careers, and to get to the point where they finally hit what they consider that pinnacle or that ultimate goal of success, and then they're just done. They become just an emotional train wreck, and they don't know what to do and how to go forward. And it's kind of like, what's next? I'm finally here, what's next? And some people don't handle it very well, and I'm sure everybody out there can think of some examples of people that just didn't handle getting to that level of success. And oftentimes they end up being self-destructive, and they end up going backwards and losing what they had because they just don't know how to handle it. And because they had never thought about what's next. And so we got to be careful. And the other part of it, once we get successful, it's just to maintain that humility. And it's hard. It's hard not to really pat yourself on the back, every day and say, I've done it, and I'm better than the rest. And do you know who I am? And you hear that. We hear it in our local industry. I've seen examples of agents that have achieved some success, and when they don't hear what they want to hear in a conversation that is kind of tense, or they're not getting their way, they'll say, do you know who I am, or how much business I do? I've heard it many times, and I'm going, oh,
I
okay,
have
well,
to.
it doesn't really matter. I mean, how much business you've done, it matters what we're dealing with today. And C.S. Lewis said it best. This is my opening quote. Humility is not thinking less of yourself, it's thinking of yourself less. So, it's at the end of the day, we've got to go out with a level of humility, that is just a reset. And yeah, we celebrate our successes. We use it as confidence to move forward and help our followers succeed, but we don't wear it on our sleeve, and we don't use it as a shield. And it really speaks volumes, when you operate that way. And so really the what's next is something that's probably, once you get to a level of success and you start getting to that next level, it's an ongoing process. We're always growing. We're never going to stop growing and doing more, if we choose to do more. But I referenced the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the pyramid, where for many, many years, and you guys probably remember if you took any psychology in school at all. I mean, Maslow's highest peak, or the pinnacle, was self-actualization, right? Where we finally realize who we are, what our value is, what type of leader we are. We don't feel imposter syndrome every day in everything we do, where we go out with confidence of our ability, because we do have a proven track record of success in helping people, and we've replicated it, and we continue to grow and get stronger at it. But what's beyond that? And later on, before Maslow passed away, he added this top level, which you don't see in a lot of texts and references to the hierarchy of needs, which is transcendence. And transcendence is really, I consider the ultimate true success, because it really transcends whatever production and recognition you've achieved in life, right? Then those things are great, and they got you to the level you're at. But transcendence goes beyond that, and it's really something that's ultimately rooted in purpose and humility and just gratitude. And you've heard the term paying it forward, or pay it back, and giving back. And that's to me is really where all of this stuff takes you in the end. And you don't have to wait till the end of your life to do it. You can do it along the way, and start delving into that transcendence level, even early on, which is working on some kind of charitable contribution, or maybe starting a charity or 501(c)(3), or maybe mentoring, coaching, training people is really, really the idea of transcendence, because, hey, I've done this, I've figured it out along the way. Maybe I've done it 10, 20, 30 years and got it pretty figured out, do really well with it. But now it's time to help others do it well, help others change their lives and succeed at a higher level and provide more for their families. And really that's what I'm talking about in terms of quantum success, because the quantum agent or broker, ultimately they should be seeking their fulfillment and significance, not just from the success that they've achieved, but by the amount of people they can help succeed and help change lives, right? And I think the only way to get to that is we got to get beyond our own ego at some point, and just become that true servant leader. And again, really growing into transcendence requires a lot of humility and just service mentality, and truly wanting to help people succeed at the end of the day. And I mean, that's something that part of the reason why I became just a full-time broker and got out of sales, same with Michael and our company, because Michael and I, may surprise you, we're probably, definitely well under 1%, but I don't know very many owners out there in our markets, our 4-county market, that doesn't sell. That, they have to sell in most cases. In some cases, they'd want to continue to sell. But, we wanted to get into this transcendence of helping our agents succeed, like all in. And we realized we can't do that by actively selling real estate every day of the week, right? So that's a perfect example of that. So I want to open it to the group here. Does anybody else have any ideas of, transcendence, or what are you guys doing today in that area? Where have you started, if you're doing anything?
I know we got some team leaders on here, because one of the things that, success is, it means a lot of different things. And I'm looking at the book right now, because you use the word legacy towards the end of it. What do you want to leave? Finding that self-actualization.
Yep.
I think a lot of people, when they retire, they have that thought of, all right, now what? And people get stagnant, they get bored. So finding something else to do. And a lot of people, when they retire from one profession, they actually become a realtor. We've had that probably in a lot of different people. And then when people retire from real estate, they still want to be involved. So it's tough finding, that self-actualization, or finding out how to utilize the skills that you've learned to find ways to improve, to contribute. And I think with a few of the leaders that we have here, and Cindy's on here, we've got Vincent on here, who have members on their teams that they're leading, and they're not doing it just for their own benefit. They're doing it because they want to see people succeed, I think. Cindy and Vincent, you guys are on there. You guys tell me if I'm wrong in that. Is that one of the cases of, when you're leading,
No, definitely. For myself, especially, it's remembering where I came from, remembering that I don't know everything, because you never will, and thinking back to the individuals who may still be in the business or may not be, who got me where I am today. And without their help, I wouldn't have the lifestyle I have. And I tell everyone, I'm not glamorous. I do my best to keep myself where I'm at. At the same token, I'm living more comfortably. And that's all I ask for. And if I can share that with somebody else, and for some individuals, they see it, some they don't. Hey, Vince, what do you get out of it? If my heart is full at the end of the day, that's great. And if it's not, and if someone else sees it differently, then that's okay too. Like, I'm not here for that. For me, it's more of somebody had to show me. And if we're not showing others, what happens? What are we really for? If we're here for $1 and a paycheck, which is great because we need it to survive, we need it to make our living, but it really doesn't get us to where we need to be at, in my opinion, and my thing. I don't want to be known as the top real estate agent. I'd rather be known as the guy who helped people get to where they needed to be. And every level is different. That's my takeaway from this, really.
Mm-hmm.
You're very much known for that, Vince, and you have great success with young young agents coming in that I see all the time that just, you know, they're here and then they're just gone, and you can't get them to move forward, and you're very good at moving forward with
Well, it's a
your
constant learning experience too with our industry and our business. I think one thing about getting that success is going to be how do you, one, measure the success, and two, what does it look like? Because for everyone it's different. Again, like a dollar sign is not a success rate for me. It does not tell me who I am or what I've done in my career, in my life. Having individuals who have learned something and gained some education and can someday look back and say, I remember that random thing that Vince taught me and it was worth it to get me where I'm at today, or I learned an experience because of it. Or, hey, I heard one of Vince's stories and that saved me from being this scenario. That, because we've all been there, we all have them. And
Yeah.
that really is what helps us, I think, to have those individuals just not make the same mistakes we do. But again, also some of that is going to be simply is they have to walk through it sometimes. And you know, we've all been there. Someone told us not to do something, we did it anyway. We found out, oh, they're right, and that's part of the growth that we have too. So for me, that's where that's at. I don't know about others.
It's awesome. I think you mentioned something very important. I've always said this. I've had this quote for many, many years, but you know, it's really your legacy is defined not by how much you earn or how much success you've achieved in your career or life, but how many lives you impact. And that is where you get the true gratification. At least I do, because you know we don't take our money in our bank account with us, and I guess maybe you do sometimes, depending on your beliefs. But I don't think I'm going to. But at the end of the day, I you know, the lives that I've impacted in some way and helped them succeed, that could have a ripple effect through generations, right? And that is, when I'm, at the end of the rope here, I mean, I'd like to reflect back on that. And the rest doesn't matter, honestly, how many deals I closed or how many offices I owned or, whatever, how much money is in the bank or what my net worth is. At the end of the day it's net impact. What was your net impact in this world? And did you help make others' lives better, or did you contribute to making others' lives worse? And so those are important things. So great thoughts there. Any other thoughts?
I will share for me because I've had all the sales and experiences many years ago, and for me the last 2 years have been a little bit slow, but this business has been so important to me, as you know, in the investment side. And so that's something I try to share with as many realtors and community as possible.
Yeah.
And giving back for me in that way is very important, that people realize you're in the business and you love this business, so you should invest more in it. Somebody quoted me in the business journal with that quote. I believe in this business so much that I invest in it. And you don't think about those things when you're writing them down, but when you see them written in front of you, you're like, oh wow, that is how I live, and that's what I believe.
That's powerful. Yeah.
And being
You've done a
able-
great job. Yeah.
Thank you. But I don't do it alone. Michael Gutierrez is helping me this year. I've had help along the way. And I think bringing leadership together with realtors in those communities, so that especially like our council members or leadership that understands what our industry is needing and what our communities need, and what we need from them is important. Are they pro housing, pro business, and those things? Having this housing symposium coming up, and we've been partnering with Fresno State for about going on 4 years now, bringing the community and them together so that we can all work together on what benefits everyone, and what impacts, for example, builders, and what they're going through. Why is housing expensive? Why is there lack of housing? And all those things I think are so important that it helps me and show that our industry is wider than just sales. And I think that's a big impact. And also giving back to Fresno State, right, where we graduated from, some of us, and being able to do that is a big deal, and to have them want you to come back is a big deal.
Yeah, it has
It
been
is.
humbling because I've been there as well, of course, being invited there to speak and worked with you on some of those things, and being recognized as alumni of one of the alumni of the year they featured one year. It's been a while. Got to work harder so I can get back in that magazine, I guess. But I think you hit something important because investing in the business. You're an investor like I am, and many others on this Zoom today. But it really comes down to investing in relationships and really dedicating your time and resources, which could have opportunity costs. Let's be honest, Adam. You pointed out the team leaders. Every team leader that generally team leaders are agents that have been very successful as solo agents, right? Then they want to start paying it forward and help others succeed and build a team and have that cultural experience and really help mentor. And almost without exception, every team leader takes a hit on their business when they do that. And I know that your team leaders on this call today can attest to that. But the reality is, that's a sacrifice that you've made in order to help others achieve and grow as well. And it's not for nothing, right? I mean, it's at the end of the day that is going to come back to you, and it has in many different ways, and it creates loyalty and in a lot of cases lifelong relationships, right? So these are things that we do that don't just have the dollar signs on them. Because if we think about everything we do in this business strictly with dollar signs and act with that mentality, man, I mean, again, I guess your bank account may go up, but I mean, I don't know about you, but I've never gone to a great dinner on a Friday night with my bank account. My bank account's paid for it, but I've never sat there and talked to it and had a great time. And at the end of the day, that's what life's about, right? Is really, having those relationships and knowing that you helped in some small or maybe some very impactful way, somebody to move forward. So, transcendence and it's about leading and mentoring and sharing your knowledge and your life experiences, your professional experiences, and helping other people avoid those pitfalls along the way. And for those of you that are young and early on in your career, you're like, well, I'm not ready to transcend quite yet, and really start paying it forward, or getting involved in mentoring training or a 501(c)(3) charity or whatever that looks like. That's okay, because you're in building mode, and in your case I would be seeking mentorship, and that's a lifelong thing as well, and that's where humility comes in. I still have mentors and coaches, and I read a lot and listen to a lot of podcasts, and I always will. I mean, if I'm 100 years old, I'll probably have a 110-year-old coach, coaching on whatever I'm working on, right? Maybe my golf swing at that point, but yeah, it's just important to be a lifelong student, but at some point to shift gears and become a lifelong mentor to others in whatever capacity that looks like. And maybe it's in your church. You become a leader in your church, and you help others through that platform. And I think that's a perfect example of transcendence, because it's not just all within the purview of your career or what you've done professionally, but it's also your life experience, and obviously you've gained a lot of wisdom along the way, and done a lot of great things, and just helping to bring others up and forward and transforming their lives. So
It's how you elevate. It's how you
yeah,
elevate people that
yeah,
are surrounding you, whether it's individuals, whether it's your community. I called Cindy's name earlier and I texted her on the side. I was like, hey, jump in here because you've been this team leader. You've been somebody who's been in this role. You've been an agent for nearly 20 years, but you've been a team leader now for a while, and you've had so many different agents that you've wanted to grow and elevate to help them transcend to where you've been at as well. Talk about that for a second. That's made you just, so much
I
more
think,
successful.
honestly, I think it comes back to what really Vincent, I mean, he nailed it. Like exactly what he said about, we have the help of other people and we love for them to have what we have experienced. And if we could teach an agent not to make those mistakes, which he did say there's sometimes you do have to make those mistakes to be able to like learn, like kind of what Mike said earlier about having your phone, like what agent has their phone out while being with the listing agent? It's like being at a job interview and checking your
Right.
text messages, like that, stuff like that, you know, and I'm sure somebody does that, but if they could
Yeah.
only listen to that. So I mean, he nailed it. And even from when I first started, you know, it goes back to Mike Allen's father. I used to be the assistant of the assistant when I was like 17 years old. I was in high school, and then I always remember like realtors walking in and Mike's dad buying. I don't know if you remember this, Mike, or if he ever told you, but he had an account to wash every realtor's car like once a month, and they would
Yeah,
go
I
out to
remember.
dinner, I mean lunch, and he would buy lunch for everybody.
Yeah.
And like that was a big impact. Like, you know, he was, yes, he was making money, but he was also returning it back to his team. And so I always remember that. I mean, like that's why I'm like a big giver. Like I love to buy lunch for my agents. I like to like do certain things with them because at the end of the day, that seed that Mike Allen's Steve Allen did, it's still in me, you know,
Mhm.
and the
Aw.
teaching part and helping. And I know Gerardo Gonzalez, he was one of my mentors when I first started. You know, he assisted me with taking me out to listings and helping me choose, you know, do the contracts and how to negotiate. And because of that, I want to, you know, move it forward to other agents. And I don't know, I must have been a teacher in my past life because I love to help people. And I didn't come for money, but I sure have grown into having investments and properties that, you know, that I'm flipping and that I'm holding. And I love to be able to assist other agents with that because if I could do it, they could do it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
sure.
Well, thank you for
Yeah.
those kind words about my dad. I think obviously I inherited a lot of those traits as well, and he did tell me to stay humble and to help people and always do the right thing and to be honest and work hard. And my dad was very successful real estate
He was
agent.
very successful, and now
Yeah.
that I look back, he was also very hated. But it wasn't that he was hated in that way. I think it comes down to jealousy.
Yeah.
A lot of
Yeah.
people, when you're at a success, people always have some kind of something bad about you, and that's also things that I've learned. When people say something negative about somebody else, I'm like,
Mm.
well, I haven't had that experience with them,
Yeah.
you know, because sometimes people put,
And again, if you're not rattling cages, you're not doing enough.
yeah,
You're not doing enough. You're
yep.
going to, because people will always make excuses and they're usually false of why you've become successful. And you just inherited everything, or you've been given something, or you're not really that
But I
successful.
mean, you could have
Yeah.
inherited something
Yeah.
if you're talking
Which is
about you,
fine.
Mike. You could have,
Yeah.
but how many people go out and get, you know, like a football player, they make so much money and they lose it. You were
Mhm.
able to obtain that and continue growing it.
Yeah.
So
I had a
you
strong
could have had
foundation.
a little bit more of a head start than maybe say myself, right? I didn't come from a family that had inventory in place, but you could have lost that also. And the only thing you've done from your dad's company is grown.
Correct.
From 7 agents to over 350, but
So, I mean, that tells you
but
something.
but that's where finding the right mentors, whether it's a parent or somebody early on that's willing to help you win. I mean, my dad's goal, of course, he passed many years ago, which is why I got into real estate and came and took over his small brokerage. But at the end of the day, a lot of people could just turn their backs and not help you, and be jealous of your success. I mean, even your own parents. My dad's grandfather was very jealous of my dad and never worked with him and always looked to either naysay, or actually in some cases he opened up a competing business, which is I do say some things in the front end of the book in the intro about my grandfather being a black sheep and the perfect representation of what not to do in life, the anti-role model. And sometimes we have that, and that's okay. Take those experiences and do the opposite. But to your point, we're all as great of a reputation as you have, Cindy. We all have. I have. I mean, there's always the naysayers out there that are going to make excuses as to why you're doing what you're doing.
People are always willing to help, Mike, at
Yeah.
any level. I
Yeah.
mean, actually, the
Yeah.
people that are more successful are willing to help more and show you what they do, because there's not really like, there's no secrets. Like you now with technology, you could go out there and be like, okay, I want to be a cold caller. What systems do I
Yep.
use? It's gonna pull all these systems. Like
Mhm.
there's nothing out there that's hidden. Like I think even the wealthiest person in our industry they're gonna tell you
Mhm.
what they're doing. I mean, we have Mike Ferry, right? Mike Ferry tells
Yep.
you what to do. Be consistent.
Well,
Cold call. Have
and
a
their
guy-
humility. I mean, with Mike, he's arguably the most successful real estate coach of all time, and he's the godfather of real estate coaching. I've got Mike on my phone. If I call or text him, he will call and text back
There you go.
within the same hour. And we're not his biggest client by any means, but that's the type of person Mike is. He wants to help. And he doesn't expect anything back out of that advice or help. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I love that. So, all right. Any other closing remarks? We're at 10:04 here. Does anybody else have any other examples of how they're transcending into that next level of giving back, taking the success they've had and have paid it forward in some way? Any other examples?
I'll say one thing that I've done. It's just been the mantra or motto that I guess that I've had. Like I said, I've done management for years and years and years. When I came on, when I met with Mike Gutierrez a couple years back, didn't have my real estate license. It was a brand new industry. Wasn't familiar with it at all, but it was something that I could see myself getting into, and leading and managing is something that I've always enjoyed. I felt like that's kind of been a purpose of mine. I want to see others do better. I'm more worried about you than I'm worried about myself. And I think a lot of us here will say that on the call. That's not just, unique to me. That's unique to a lot of people on that one. So the motto has just been aspire to inspire, because that's been my motto for years and years and years. I could have been in my 20s. I was in my 20s in a management role, in a pretty high-end management role, but it didn't matter necessarily my age. It was in my attitude and how I presented myself in the situations, and understanding, yes, you've done this a lot longer than me. I understand that and I respect that. I absolutely respect that, because hey, I can go to you. I'm not going to feel, ashamed to say that you know more than me in this, because you should, and I want to gather that knowledge from, because it's going to help me become better and help me become a better leader, just a better student of life. So that's something that I've utilized for my adult life. And I love passing that on to, whether it's agents here, elsewhere, wherever it may be. And I think it's something that a lot of people want to eventually do. That's how they define success. For me personally, that's how I define it, is what I see others do and what I see others become.
That's awesome. I love that.
You're great at it, Adam. This weekend I was at the Tony Robbins, and we had a emergency cancellation of an open house, and I didn't have my laptop, and it was all over social media. So I'm like, shoot, let me call Adam, see if he answers, and he did. And just from from previous places that I've been, it was really hard to get a hold of someone. And so by me calling him and be like, can you go into the MLS, cancel the the open house, because I couldn't do anything. And so he's like, yep, I took care of it. So Adams, thank you.
Nice.
Appreciate it. You are passionate about what you do. You can tell.
Oh yeah.
Yep. All right. Anything else? Any closing remarks, Sandra? I mean, you put this whole thing together. I think it's been
What's
great.
our next book, Sandra?
Well, I had a lot of help from Adam. So
Yeah, both of you have done a great job.
and this was a amazing book, but I hope we can continue with doing this. And there's so many real estate books that I absolutely love. We should dig in and do this again for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I learned a lot, and just listening to other people, it's so motivation, it just gives you a lot of motivation and reminds you of things to keep yourself on track. So
So are we starting next week with the new book, or we're gonna have like a whole
well, we hadn't talked about it, should we? Mike, are we gonna do a new
Yeah,
book? I can
think
read a book.
I think we pick a book and get it out and give people some time to knock out a couple chapters and then pick this back up
Yeah.
again, maybe next month.
I think it
Do
sounds
you
like
have
something
a-
we're going to have to announce on the next buyer side chat, Mike.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I think so. I think we want to give some people time to get the book, and because yeah, we want to have meaningful discussions, make sure people are either listening to the audio or reading it. But I do think this is format's great. I think we've had great attendance, and people are interested. So yeah, let's keep going. Yeah.
Can I
I
say
would love that.
something?
Yes.
You know, I was very surprised because I missed a couple of these meetings. I saw you at car meetings, and then I had a new member orientation. But in having this book read, it was more than that, because it was like a mastermind. You know, from every meeting, you shared things that are things that we can use in the workplace. You know, you're motivating me. Like I said, my business was slow last year and this year. And you're motivating me to do more things to increase that, you know, the work in the workplace, to my workload. And that's something of enthusiasm that's coming back to me. What can I do now to, you know, ramp things up, promote things more, and, you know, increase business? And so this is like a mastermind, really, of that. And I didn't expect that. That's just what I wanted to share.
Awesome.
Oh, nice. That's
Thank you.
nice, Carmen. Yeah. Well, I think we can continue our book clubs on Mondays, and Cindy, I think you suggested it. You have a book in mind? Was it Cindy that
I'm
suggested
so
it?
sorry. I got a call.
Oh, no,
for
that's
a
okay.
doctor's appointment, so I didn't hear. I have so many books. I don't think any book we choose would make a. They're all going to be great books.
Yeah. Okay, well, we'll talk about it and then
Yeah.
maybe pick this back up. Sounds
Sounds
good.
great.
I like that idea a lot. Reading
Well
a
done,
book.
you two. Good job, Mike. Good
Yeah.
job, Sandra. Thank you for this.
Yes, thank you. And good job, Mike. I'm super proud that
Thank you.
you wrote this book.
Mhm.
Thank you
I
so much.
love when somebody writes a book that I know. I absolutely cherish that, and
Thank you.
I think it's really great for our company. And yeah, congrats on it.
Take the
Thank
closing
you so much.
remarks, Mike. Take us out of here.
Well, I just say everything that we live, breathe, and do should be with the thought of quantum success, and that's just about, you know, just putting in the extra effort, doing the right thing all the time, achieving, you know, looking to achieve greatness in all that you do, and then inspiring others, leading others, mentoring others, and going about it with humility and servant leadership, and ultimately looking to pay it forward and help others succeed as well. And that's what being a quantum real estate agent is all about.
Nice. All right, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Have a great week.
Thank
too.
you.
Bye.
Thanks, you guys. That was great.